Thank you for tuning in to Safe Haven Radio. I'm truly grateful you're here with me today. Let's explore something many of us struggle with, the challenge of expressing our authentic selves and speaking our truth. If you've ever found yourself nodding along when you actually disagree, or if you've left conversations feeling exhausted because you couldn't say what you really meant, please know that you're not alone. Many of you listening right now may have similar experiences, and it's important to understand that this struggle is both common and deeply rooted in how our brains and nervous systems respond to social situations. Today, I want to share some insights from recent research about authentic self-expression, what it means for our mental health, why it can feel so difficult, and some gentle approaches you might consider trying. Before we begin, I want to emphasize that what I'm sharing today is based on current scientific understanding, but it's not a substitute for professional support. If you're experiencing significant distress or if suppressing your feelings is severely impacting your daily life, please consider reaching out to a mental health professional who can provide personalized guidance. Take your time with this content, and know that you can go at your own pace. Let me start by sharing what recent research has revealed about the connection between authentic expression and our well-being. A research institution's comprehensive study involving over 3,000 participants found some fascinating connections between how we express ourselves and our mental health. The study showed that individuals who regularly suppressed their authentic feelings and opinions showed measurable changes in stress markers. Specifically, they found increased levels of inflammatory markers, something called C-reactive protein increased by approximately 35% in those who habitually suppressed authentic expression compared to those who felt more comfortable voicing their truth. What's particularly interesting is what neuroscience has revealed about what happens in our brains when we suppress our authentic selves. Brain imaging studies conducted by a major university's psychology department showed that when people hold back their true thoughts or feelings, it activates a specific brain region called the anterior cingulate cortex. This is essentially the brain's conflict detection center. It lights up when there's a mismatch between what we're thinking and what we're expressing. When this region is chronically activated, it creates what researchers describe as a state of neural stress. It's as if your brain is constantly working overtime to manage the disconnect between your inner truth and outer expression. A research team conducted a meta-analysis, that's a study that combines results from many different studies, looking at assertiveness training and its effects on mental health. They found consistent evidence that learning structured communication techniques can help reduce anxiety, with what researchers call an effect size of 0.73. They also found improvements in depression symptoms with an effect size of 0.68, and reductions in overall stress. Now, there's still much we don't fully understand about why these improvements occur, and individual experiences vary considerably. Current research suggests that authentic expression may help reduce the constant cognitive load of monitoring and adjusting what we say, which in turn may lower overall stress levels. Another fascinating finding comes from research on the body's stress response systems. A study found that individuals practicing regular authentic expression showed reduced cortisol levels, that's our primary stress hormone, by up to 23%. They also showed improvements in what's called heart rate variability, which is an indicator of how well our nervous system can regulate between states of activation and rest. This research suggests that authentic expression isn't just emotionally beneficial, it may have tangible effects on our physical health as well. It's important to note that some research, particularly studies looking at cultural differences, has found that the relationship between emotional expression and well-being can vary depending on cultural context. A large international study across 19 countries found that in more collectivistic societies, emotional suppression sometimes correlated with better mental health outcomes, while in individualistic cultures, the opposite was true. This reminds us that there's no one-size-fits-all approach, and what works depends on many factors including your cultural background, personal values, and specific circumstances. Now, let's talk about some practical approaches you might consider if you'd like to explore more authentic expression. Please remember that these are suggestions, not obligations, and you should only try what feels manageable and safe for you within your current situation. The first approach comes from cognitive behavioral therapy research and is called cognitive restructuring. This is a gentle way to begin examining the thoughts that might be holding you back from authentic expression. Here's how you might try it, if you'd like. Start by identifying just one situation each day where you notice yourself holding back from expressing something authentic. It could be as simple as not sharing your true preference about where to eat lunch, or not voicing a small disagreement. Once you've identified that moment, write down the automatic thought that stopped you. It might be something like, they'll think I'm difficult, or I'll upset them, or they won't like me anymore. Then, gently challenge that thought by asking yourself some questions. What's the actual evidence for this belief? Has this feared outcome actually happened before? What's the realistic probability that this worst-case scenario would occur? Research suggests that approximately 87% of the social consequences we fear never actually materialize. This doesn't mean you should dismiss your concerns. They're valid, but it may help to examine them with a bit of distance. Don't blame yourself if this feels difficult at first. It's a skill that develops gradually with practice. A second approach that research has found helpful is what's called graduated exposure. This is borrowed from anxiety treatment protocols and has been adapted for communication challenges. The idea is to start with very low-stakes authentic expressions and gradually work up to more significant ones. You might begin by sharing a genuine preference about something small, maybe your actual opinion about a movie, or honestly saying which restaurant you'd prefer. Practice these smaller authentic expressions for about 5 minutes each day with people you feel relatively safe with. Research participants who followed this kind of graduated approach reported a 65% reduction in anxiety around authentic expression within the first month. As you become more comfortable, you can gradually increase the stakes, perhaps sharing a small disagreement, then later a more significant opinion. The key is to move at your own pace. If something feels too overwhelming, that's valuable information. You can always step back to a more comfortable level. Small changes matter, and your pace is exactly right for you. A third technique that's been studied is called the DESC script method. DESC stands for describe, express, specify, and consequences. This provides a structured framework for authentic communication that research suggests may feel safer than unstructured expression. Here's how it works. First, describe the situation as objectively as possible, without judgment or interpretation. Then, express your feelings using I statements. I feel frustrated, rather than, you make me frustrated. Next, specify what you need or would like to happen. Finally, outline the positive consequences if this need is met. Brain imaging research has shown that using this structured approach activates the prefrontal cortex, the brain's planning and reasoning center, while helping to calm the amygdala, which is involved in emotional reactivity. This may be why structured scripts can feel easier to use than spontaneous emotional expression. You might practice this script 3 times a week in progressively challenging situations, but only when you feel ready. There's no rush. A fourth approach is something I call the 2-minute authenticity window, based on research about habit formation and neural plasticity. Set aside just 2 minutes each day where you commit to expressing one genuine feeling or opinion to someone. It could be through a text message, an email, or a brief conversation, whatever feels most manageable for you. Research on neuroplasticity suggests that consistent, brief practices like this can begin to rewire neural pathways within about 21 days, making the behavior feel increasingly natural and less anxiety-provoking. If verbal expression feels too overwhelming initially, starting with written messages is perfectly fine. Many people find it easier to express authenticity in writing first, then gradually work toward verbal expression. Whatever form works for you is the right one to start with. There's also a physiological preparation technique that research has found helpful. Before a situation where you want to practice authentic expression, try a specific breathing pattern. Breathe in slowly for a count of 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. Repeat this 4 times. This is called the 4-7-8 breathing pattern, and research has shown it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system that counteracts stress responses. Studies have found this pattern can reduce cortisol levels by about 16% and may increase verbal fluency by approximately 23%, potentially making authentic expression feel physically easier. Finally, consider a weekly values clarification exercise. Spend about 10 minutes each week identifying your core values and reflecting on how suppressing authentic expression affects your alignment with those values. Research has found that when people connect behavior change to their deeply held values, they're about 82% more likely to follow through. This isn't about forcing yourself to express everything you think, it's about understanding what matters most to you and making conscious choices about when authentic expression serves your values. Throughout all of these approaches, please remember that if you experience any worsening of symptoms, increased distress, or concerning emotional reactions, it's important to reach out to a mental health professional. These techniques are meant to support well-being, but they're not appropriate for everyone in every situation, and they're not a replacement for professional care when it's needed. Let me summarize what we've discussed today. First, research shows our brains experience measurable stress when we chronically suppress authentic expression, activating the conflict detection center and elevating stress hormones. Second, inflammation markers can increase by approximately 35% with habitual suppression, suggesting physical health impacts. Third, graduated exposure to authentic expression has been associated with 65% reductions in related anxiety within 1 month. Fourth, structured methods like the DESC script may help by activating planning centers while calming emotional reactivity centers. Fifth, brief daily practice of just 2 minutes can begin rewiring neural pathways within 3 weeks. And sixth, connecting authentic expression to your core values may increase your success rate by about 82%. Please remember, you don't need to implement all of these at once. Start with what feels manageable, maybe just the breathing exercise, or perhaps simply noticing one moment each day when you suppress authentic expression. Small steps matter deeply. You don't need to be perfect at this, and your pace is exactly right for you. Change takes time, and that's not just okay, it's how sustainable change actually happens. I want you to know that your authentic voice has value. The thoughts and feelings you've been holding back, they matter. Learning to express them in ways that feel safe and sustainable is a journey, and it's one worth taking at whatever pace feels right for you. You've done well just by being here today and considering these ideas. That itself is an important step. If today's content provided any support or gave you something to think about, I'd be grateful if you'd hit the like button. It helps others who might be struggling with similar challenges find this content. If you'd like to continue learning about mental health topics together, please subscribe to Safe Haven Radio. We're here to explore these challenges with gentleness and scientific understanding, always prioritizing your well-being above all else. May your hearts feel a little lighter knowing that you're not alone in this struggle, and that there are paths forward, even if they feel uncertain right now. Thank you for listening to Safe Haven Radio. Take gentle care of yourselves. Please note that this content is for educational purposes and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of qualified health providers with any questions you may have regarding your mental health.